joining us on stage, we have Jack Su. He is the founder and CEO of Ivy Group International. He's come here from the States and investing in K-12 schools in Beijing. So round of applause, Jack. And you can also, do you want to come and grab a seat as well? Save you standing up. We have Ahmed Emre Bukalic, country advisor from Investment Office of the Presidency of Turkey, 14 years of experience in promoting investments in Korea, Japan, and Asian markets. And Zihan Rehman Khattak, the CEO of Pakistan Software Export Board. Very nice background in liberal arts as well as an expert in his fields, and very carefully moderated the lady for the job, Yan Duan, the founder of Simple Steps China. She specializes in transforming complex research findings into engaging narratives. So I'm sure you'll be doing a fabulous job here today for us. So thank you and enjoy your panel.
Thank you, Sarah, for the kind introduction. Yeah. So we have, Wang Yi just had a very large, broad view for us what's the future of education would look like. But I want to start something small, so I want to start something personal. We have 4 panelists here, and I know that all of you are parents. So the question that the first question I have for the 4 of you is that from a personal perspective, what do you think is the biggest challenging that is facing your kid or the kids in your region? Maybe Wang Yi, start from you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I have 2 sons, 13 and 11. Unlike many Chinese parents, we did not send them to any crunch schools to do afterworks on math or Chinese or English or whatever. The only thing we do is spending time with them on traveling and doing sports.
Okay. So
my older son Felix, he is really good at. He somehow got into play, snooker and pool, and he's like now semi-professional on that. He trains 3 days a week. And my younger son Forrest, he is a really good runner, and he is now very into rock climbing. And he trains very hard every week for several times. And every time we have, every vacation or holiday, we go different places. Mm-hmm. And I bring them to see the world, and just along the way, I discover and uncover their unique interests. I think that's been very beneficial, not just to strengthen my relationship with the kids, but also really to rediscover myself. I was really playing with them, relive my childhood. And at the mid-age, I think it's tremendously valuable and unique experience. And I really think this is how I would want to spend time with my kids, and they are discovering the power of AI in their own ways. And this coming week, we are gonna start learning AI together, organized by another entrepreneur. Funny enough, his company went public on the NYSE the day before mine, and he's now transforming into his second stage of his career, building AI boot camps for the younger generation, because he and I both thought there is no single school in the world, as far as we know, is adapting as fast as the breakthrough of the AI and how we can start to even think about and design about how education should be. So we are practitioners, we start doing that.
Okay, so you let your kids travel and play sports, and that's the way that they're learning, and you see AI as a big opportunity.
Yes, because I see sparkles in their eyes when we play. Mm-hmm. And on my way, another shout out to Emirates. I flew Emirates here. And I had enjoyed the podcast on Emirates where the host interviewed a neuroscience professor from Stanford. His name is Adam Eagleman or something Eagleman, last name Eagleman. This Professor Eagleman mentioned the best way to influence your children is to actually play with them and discover what their interests are. Wherever the interests are, you can really teach just about anything, not just knowledge, but also characters, while helping them explore their own interests. I very much bought into that view.
Okay, so you already find the most important thing for your kids is to find their own interest, and they can build their passion from there. Jack, I want to go to you next. Wang Yi is talking very much about the opportunities, but I want to ask you about the challenges because you have 15 schools in China, and what are the challenges that you're seeing those kids are facing in their daily lives?
Yeah, thank you, Yan. So I moved to China in 2003. And to answer your question, I actually want to go maybe way back and think about education. Education, despite the fact that it's one of the largest and oldest industries in the world, it has seen shockingly little innovation. So Yi talked about in his speech education 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, but actually on the ground, I think most schools around the world are still stuck in 1.0. Yeah. So, education is a $7 trillion in market size industry. It's much larger than real estate. It's on par with energy and slightly smaller than healthcare. Yeah. So it's really surprising that the classrooms of today, it really hasn't changed all much. Back in the first schools in ancient Egypt, kids were learning hieroglyphics for religious purposes. But if you take an educator, Socrates or Confucius, and you drop them in today's classrooms, they'll immediately be very familiar with the setup of today's. In fact, they'll probably be able to be very effective teachers right away. Whereas, if you take a doctor from just 100 years ago and you drop them in today's operating room, I don't think the doctor would be very effective or they'd be complete loss. So why has medicine seen such transformative change, whereas education has remained stuck? So that is one question that I think is common throughout the world. So despite all the amazing technology we're seeing, I think we still haven't really found this way through the ground.
Yeah. So, but if you you mentioned that education doesn't have much innovation, but in your schools, you think what kind of innovation that you want to apply so that maybe it looks like a more modern education?
Yeah. Well, a third of my life was spent in Singapore and Taiwan, where I was born, and then a third of my life was in the U.S. So the last 20 years in China, we're one of the largest school builders and providers in China. And we realized one thing, that most schools around the world are doing it backwards. They're doing it in the wrong order. What do I mean by that? We ask kids when they're young to memorize facts. Yeah. But we never ask them why those facts matter. We never ask that question. We churn out people really good at knowledge, but really with no purpose. Yeah. So what if we flip it around? And that's what we did in our schools, where we ask them to engage in real world, real life problems first, and then seek the knowledge to solve these problems. Isn't that a better way to tackle these problems?
Yeah, so like a purpose-driven education. So they have a goal first before, learning mathematics. Why, a lot of kids, they learn about mathematics without knowing why they're learning mathematics.
Absolutely. If I may just add one point. So in 2022, together with the Columbia Global Center, we launched the Fellowship for Change. It's really built on a framework of the Aspen Institute Fellows, where we put our fellows through a one-year program. And they're tackling really, I think, significant challenges in China. One of them is looking at premature death around China and mapping that to the pollution map. So I think of her as the modern-day young Erin Brockovich. Yeah, another is tackling, is actually fighting to provide access to education for migrant worker children, of which the economy of China is built. So they're doing incredible stuff, and they're just high school age children.
Yeah. Wang Yi, I think you want to.
I just want to quickly make a comment. Jack, I think one of the key reasons why that was the case, the backwards case, is because pushing the kids to learn facts is so much more easier. It's like, it's easier on the teachers, it's easier on the, education system, but for doing your kind of innovative breakthrough fellowships or project-based learning, it's a much higher requirement on the designer and the frontline teachers. But I think that's where we ought to go, right? Otherwise, in the age of AI companions available at your fingertips, no more facts need to be memorized, pretty much, right? So it's not a opt-in kind of approach. It's a necessity, I think. So we ought to start taking actions now.
Right. Ahmed, what about you?
Yeah. First of all, I can see that I have many things to learn from our friends Jack and Wang, because I am personally new to parenting as well as someone having a 3.5 years old son. So, but what I can observe personally from maybe two angles from my personal experience. First of all, I think the biggest challenge that they encounter, and most likely we will keep encountering, would be the overexposure and overconsumption. Which you may relate to the, excessive, like a mobile usage, and also the frequency of the breakthroughs in the technology. Like a couple years back, there was no AI agenda, and now we are all pretending that AI has to change all our lives. Somehow, yes, it's gonna change, but we are, I think, forgetting the point of the human touch, and I think there is a somehow controversial point of that, AI-driven technologies and the human impact or the human aspect of it. I think as a just maybe example, what I have observed back in when we were just visiting Bali, there was those green school model, which is like eco schools. So I think the number of those eco schools are increasing, and the point of view, like looking at the education from some values, some fundamental values, and the real sustainability, kind of inspirational education is much needed, because we barely take actions but more talk on those kind of aspects. And last point, from someone coming from the emerging markets perspective, within the our country's Turkey's ecosystem, the guiding the youth, like kids, all the way starting from kids to the youth, maybe up to till the end of the college period, how to guide them, how to let them get prepared well enough to the working age, and also to make them ready for being on the right path is very critical, and could only be resolved with the well-educated parents, and as well as the teacher mindset, not only teaching the data or fact, whatever, but also to make them ready for the real world. So that's my just point personally.
Okay. Zishan?
Okay, thank you very much, first of all. When we talk about challenges, and when in case of my children, what I have noticed is, and the world that we live in, is it's constantly changing. So my priority is actually to teach them how to teach themselves to learn, because the world consistently changing, you have to be able to adapt quickly. So that's one side. Another thing which is important is that with advent of AI and so much technologies and all, we should not ignore that human touch and that human interaction. I remember one of my professors always used to say when I was in college that you can never email a smile a handshake and an eye contact. So I think that is very important. So we just have to cut a balance and to ensure that we are equipping our children to be prepared for the next decade or whenever something new comes up, and we are just not in a position where we don't have the ability to adapt.
Yeah. So it's just like we said, they have to be resilient to all the changes. Certainty is very scarce. So my next question actually was that we talked about the challenges those young people face, but there are going to be the next generation leaders. So eventually they're going to be the problem solvers of the greatest challenges that humans face. And what do you think? I want to start with you, Jack. What do you think are the qualities or the skill sets that are needed so that they're equipped to solve problems?
You know, one of the things that I think kids don't do enough nowadays is to read the classics. Yeah, I was really surprised that people in the US, they've stopped reading Aristotle and a lot of these thinkers. And people in China, schools don't teach Lao Tzu anymore. So that's something I find that we must bring back into our current school system. And at my alma mater at Columbia, actually, they brought in a core curriculum, I think, which focuses on that. And I want to bring that because it does talk about what do you hope to accomplish in education, and that is, I think, to find meaning and happiness. And how do you find meaning and happiness? Well, all these thinkers have shown us the way, which is to be of service to others. And that, I think, the schools, they must bring back. There's all these great technology, AI and all that, which I think will make knowledge transfer much more efficient. But you have to teach the empathy before academics. You have to teach the why before the how. So I don't think you can have a successful school or to have happy people in the world if you don't have that. Especially, your first question was about the trend in my region, which is Asia Pacific. But I think it's crawling upon all areas, including the Middle East, which is this excessive competition. In China, we call it 卷. I think it's translated as involution. When I was young in Singapore, there was a term for it too, gasu. So you're scared of losing. Yeah. So I think one way that we can do to alleviate this excessive competition, whether it's applying to Harvard, where you have a 2% or some crazy acceptance rate, is to encourage how can you be of service to others. And my takeaway doing education in the past 20 years is you have to start young. You have to start empathy before you start drilling the math, the English, and the sciences.
Okay. Actually, Ahmed also said about, like, you mentioned about there's a lot of contents on the internet that, the kids are, immersed with, while in the meantime, they're not reading enough classics. But the reality, I think, maybe from China's, the kids are already burdened, or the young people are already burdened with, a lot of work, homework, or their assignments, and how to solve that. They're facing a world, as Zishan mentioned, it's fast changing. There's a lot to learn. How do they find the luxury to, learn to read the classics that are, it's not going to be immediately useful when they apply a job or when they, do a task?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I mentioned about education being done backwards, in a reverse order. Yeah. So I truly believe that they have to start with action first. Action is what's missing from a lot of our education now. We learn a lot of knowledge. We churn out kids who have all the answers in the world, but they have no idea what questions to ask. That is a big problem.
Okay. Wang Yi, do you want to add?
Yes, you asked, your original question was how do we solve the problems?
How do we equip our next generation?
Yeah, how do we equip our next generations to solve the problems? But my answer to that, or my reaction rather to that, is how do we equip our next generation to ask the right questions?
Questions.
Right? Because more and more, the current problems to be solved by human beings will be able to be solved by robots and AIs, the co-pilots, right? At least to a large extent, so-called the task completion. But increasingly, I think we need to be able to ask the right questions. You know, echo what just Jack just said. I think we need to keep, at least that's my personal philosophy, to keep my curiosity.
Okay.
Right? I think curiosity keeps someone young, you know, regardless of your actual age. Curiosity is the thing that drives your desire to whatever your personal nature lies. You know, curiosity is where you can really start to be asking the right prompts, giving the right prompts to your AI co-pilots and companions to really enrich your life, hopefully to the degree, you know, where without AI you would never be able to accomplish. That's an amplification of your human nature. So I think that's very key. So I think I agree with Jack that we need to really prepare our next generation to be able to ask
The right question.
the right question. Starting from asking, who am I really? You know, what is the relationship? What kind of life I want to build and have, and what kind of relationship I want to build with people around me and with the world? And I still ask this kind of question to myself. So I think that way I can keep, you know, purposeful and being, you know, stay open and innovative.
Zishan, you are with the Pakistan Software Export Board, and one of your tasks is to prepare the tech talent in Pakistan to, you know, get into the global market. And but so we are facing a very connected world. And how do you think, you know, our next generation can be prepared to enter into a world that is no longer, you know, living in Pakistan or living in China, but we live in a world that is global? Like, how do you address that?
So, in our case, one of the key component which really helps us achieve that purpose is that we work very closely with the industry. And that's where we have some kind of visibility in terms of what of the shape of things to come, the kind of demand that exists globally. Mm-hmm. Then what we do is we interact with academia as well, and we interact with the regulators of universities and academic departments as well. So what we do is so all the new technologies and upcoming technologies that are going to be in demand in recent or in extended future, we introduce that from K1 to K12 and then on to college level as well. So in that way, we ensure that all the graduates that we produce, which are, mind you, 75,000 graduates annually, we try to ensure that they are market ready and they are not only able to meet the demands of the industry right away, but have that ability to prepare themselves for the future demands as well. From K1 to K5 level, what we aim to do is to make sure that the students have that sense of familiarity with the technology, and they're not very apprehensive about things, so they have once you are comfortable with something, you can experiment with it and you can just try new things. And this is how we inculcate that understanding for the future as well.
Okay, thank you. Ahmed, I want to ask you a question about investment. Like, how do you think the tax investment are, you know, helping with, you know, the next generation to be more prepared for the next gen?
I think we can see we are right in the middle of the tech investments week here in GITEX, along with the Expand North Star, and I think it reflects a great practice, best practice of how can young youth, generation could be empowered through entrepreneurship. So I think to enable their realize their potential. Being an entrepreneur is a great asset and is a great way to follow a successful path, not only in terms of the financial success I'm talking about, but also the purpose-wise. Now we are seeing more and more entrepreneurs coming along with an idea who really wants to touch upon curing a real-world problem and create an impact. So in order to do so, I mean, for sure, investments and the deploying enough capital allocation into the venture industry is crucial. And I guess all the investors, while they are taking into consideration some other factors, youth empowerment should be also one of the key considerations. Yesterday, when we were just visiting our Turkish investment office pavilion back in Expand North Star, we have encountered with two gentlemen, one of our co-exhibitors. They are undergrad students, and when they just shared with us, they have 3 million users coming out of as a entrepreneur from Istanbul. And on the some image processing, AI-driven, everything is more or less AI-enabled nowadays. But I think they are utilizing the technology quite well. This has been really inspiring and show us how that really changed the world. I mean, in a good way.
Thank you. I think we still have 5 minutes left, so I want to open the floor to our audience. If you have any questions to ask to our panelists, please raise your hand. We will have some mic ready to your questions. Do you have any questions? Okay, the gentleman over there. Yeah. Can you tell us who are you and where you're from?
My name is Rajesh, and I would like to have a question small that Mr. Jack, when he was telling, before they could teach to the new generation, the children, to know empathy. So my point here is that the age where a small child will understand empathy is not a big word for them, because we go from the deep roots, A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
and they cannot understand such a big word. And before that, in my opinion, sympathy is a very big word to come back with empathy. So I feel that it is too early to give them and generate their mind.
Okay.
But then if they go on their own as per the age, so you see every fruit has a season, everything goes with the time well. So there I want to ask you.
Do you have kids?
No, I'm single. So I would like to.
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
So obviously you cannot start teaching ethics to a 3-year-old. Just go way over the head. What I would suggest, how you want to teach empathy, is for them to do service projects. Start with houseworks. Have them wipe the table after they're done. Clear the dishes for others. That's the best way to teach empathy and sympathy.
So
that's a quick answer.
Can I also
Chichu?
respond to that? So I have small kids, and you know what? You start early, and the word is a big word, but there are small things that we can teach.
Yeah,
you share a cookie with your child and see how they distribute that. So that is justice right there. So these are small things, but then they have big results.
We can understand, but to understand themselves, to make them understand, I think
Yes, so
they
that
do the
becomes-
act, but they will not go with the definitions.
Yeah.
So my point is, I think they should go from the starting learning to reach at that word by their own brain, rather to tell them in advance.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, I understand.
If I may, because I want to add on to your point. So the biggest social innovation prize in the world, the Hult Prize, it has a prize money of $1.5 million. It used to be administered by the Clinton Foundation. Now the UN runs it. So it came into China in 2016, but by 2020, it left China. And what it said was that by the time kids reach college, their mind's already made up. They're doing this social work not to help others, but it's for the prize money or for personal accolades, so they can apply to grad school, or for a prestigious job. So the whole prize concluded that for this to be successful, it must be fostered at a young age. So to answer the question, I don't think we have a perfect answer yet, but we have to try to start at a young age through various possibilities that my panelists have suggested.
Thank you.
I think that's all for our panel. We still have 30 seconds left, so I will maybe let each one of you have like one sentence to stress for our next generation leaders, or maybe just to your kids. Wang Yi, do you want to start?
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Okay.
I'm a third culture kid. I grew up in many places. So one of my hope for the future is break down the lines of division and country. We're all one united people.
So raise first confidence, and then try to be as inclusive as possible.
Same actually. Stay brave, stay curious, and have that character to help everyone else as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks our panelists for sharing your views.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic. We'll wait for a picture. I know we've got more questions in the audience, but don't forget you can access the panel afterwards, so apologies if you were missed out, because I know we had such a great session here, which is inspiring.